Hello, everyone. Welcome to Mrs. Hicks' biology class. So today's topic here is Punnett Squares, and we have special guests today, the Simpsons. This lesson is actually, it can serve as a formative assessment of all the Mendelian genetic topics we covered in a unit. So this lesson here will be tying all these things together and figuring out if the students have actually, if they retain the information and are able to use it constructively. So, a case of dimples with the Simpsons. So here, Marge and Homer Simpson, they're having another baby, and the thing is, Homer doesn't like Marge's dimples, and even though we don't see them here, she has dimples. We're just going to say that. And he wants to know, what is the chance that their baby is going to inherit those dimples? Now, dimples are a dominant gene, and we're going to figure this out later, what the probability is, but Homer doesn't know anything about genetics, so he won't be able to figure it out. But since you have all the background knowledge of genetics, you can help him to figure that out. So he tried to do it alone and it didn't work out for him. So for us to be able to do it, we're going to have to review some key terms. So, what are these terms? A trait, which is a characteristic passed from one generation to another, such as eye color, hair color, dimples. Allele is a different form of the same trait. So if we're talking about the trait eyes, this is going to be blue eyes, green eyes, or brown eyes. Heredity is the passing of traits from one parent to offspring. Genotype is the genetic makeup of an organism, and it is also considered the allelic combination because there are two alleles, and with both alleles, that gives you the genotype. The phenotype is the physical characteristics of an organism. Homozygous dominant is two copies of the same dominant allele. Homozygous recessive, two copies of the same recessive allele. Heterozygous dominant be two different alleles. Dominant allele is expressed. There's no way you can get a heterozygous recessive. Monohybrid cross is a cross between two organisms with different variations at one genetic chromosome of interest. So in this case, we're going to be talking about dimples. That is the one genetic chromosome of interest that we're interested in for this lesson. So here is just a table with phenotypes with their respective genotype possibilities. It's showing traits and, your dominant alleles and your recessive alleles, these allelic combinations. That is. And here on the side, I have an eye color example. Your homozygous dominant would be the big two capital B's. Homozygous recessive would be your two lowercase b's. And the heterozygous would be a capital and a lowercase b. This is just showing how you would use these dominant and recessive genes as a genotype. What is a Punnett square and how do we use it? A Punnett square is a chart that allows us to determine the different genotypes that offspring can inherit from their parents. How do we use it? First, we need the genotypes of each parent. For example, the mother's genotype can be two small t's, and the father's genotype can be big T, small t. And your capital T is for tallness, small t is for shortness. The capital T showing that is a dominant gene, and the small t, is showing that it is recessive. Yo, who you calling short? How to use the Punnett Square. So here is a table that allows you to visualize how this Punnett Square is actually going to be created. You have your first allele of the father, then the second allele of the father in this block, the first allele of the mother in this block, and then the second allele of the mother in this block. Here is where you're going to actually combine the alleles to create the Punnett Square. So in this box, you're going to use the two alleles, one from box 1 and one from box 3, and you'll combine them together. And then the same goes for this box, that one, and this one. So first, let's determine the genotypes. Now Homer, he has the recessive trait no dimples, so this means that he must have two recessive alleles. His genotype can be represented as two small d's. Marge, she has the dominant trait, dimples, but she could either be two big D's or big D small d. So she can be homozygous dominant or heterozygous. Either one of those can give the dominant phenotype. So looking at Marge's parents, her father has dimples and her mother does not. So her mother obviously have the recessive trait and therefore has to have two small d's. And then her father can either be heterozygous or homozygous dominant, just like Marge. So we don't know what Marge is, but we can still find out by knowing the possibility, just looking at her parents, we know what hers can be. So here you're going to take 5 minutes to figure out Marge's genotype before going on to the next slide. Now, let's see if you got it right or if you made some kind of mistake. And this is going to explain the answer. So Marge's genotype, she obviously has to be a big D small d because she had to have obtained a small d, which is a recessive allele, from her mother, because that is all she could have gotten from her mother was a small d. For her dad, she would have had to get a small one or a big one, and we know that he had to pass on a big D. So it don't even matter what he is. We don't know it, and we're not going to be able to figure that out. But we do know that he had to pass a big D to Marge because she has dimples, and her mother gave her a small d, and that would have not given her dimples. So now that we have their genotypes, Marge, which is heterozygous, and Homer, which is two small d's, now we can do our Punnett Square. So what is the chance that Marge's and Homer's baby will have dimples? So take 1 minute to fill in each box on your own using the corresponding handout in order, starting with box number 1. So go for it. Box number 1 is dimples. So before going on to the next slide, make sure you're taking a minute to try to figure it out on your own and pause the video or whatever before you go on to the next slide. So as we can see here, with filling out the table, we have dimples in 2 boxes, and then down here we have no dimples and no dimples. So this first box was box 1 and 3. And this box right here was this 2 and 1. I'm sorry. Scratch that. I don't remember the numbers. I'm sorry. But you can see clearly that this box is corresponding to these 2 letters. And this box corresponds to these 2 letters, one from each parent. And this one from these 2. And box 4 is from these 2. So now we can determine the probability. For determining the probability, we have to know, for one, the number of specific events that we're looking for. In this case, we're looking for how many cases of dimples we can get. And we put that over the number of possible events. So how many are possible? And so what is the chance that the baby will have dimples? So your probability here would be 2 chances of dimples over 4 possible events in all. Because in the table, we only had 4. And 2 out of 4 equals 1/2. And that gives a 50% chance. So, good job, but it's not really good news for Homer. He's not happy with that. Now, during the last 5 minutes, I would like for you to work on your handout labeled Exit Ticket. Use what you learned and have some confidence. Thank you for allowing me to teach you this lesson. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed putting it all together. And I want you to reflect on this lesson and the exit ticket strategy that was used at the end of the lesson and let me know. On that exit ticket at the bottom, how do you feel about using the exit ticket? Did it help you? Did it benefit you in any kind of way? Do you know where you stand with the lesson because of it? Just let me know all of that at the bottom of the exit ticket in the reflect section, and email me your handouts by 5 p.m. today. And those students who have IEPs, you have a little extra time to do yours. You can send me yours by the end of the day. Thank you so much again. You guys have a blessed day.